Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
We're glad you could join us once again for our Tea with Tamara and Twila. Sometimes we call it tea time. And we hope you have a cup of tea or coffee or another warm beverage and you're drinking along with us as you sit and listen to our words. And we hope they're words of wisdom. At least we will try to give out some information and some ideas. And this is the time we start serving our chai at the shop.
Yep.
And so if you stop by the shop, you're going to be offered a cup of our wonderful chai tea.
Yes.
It is.
Some people like it plain. I like to drink it plain. It's a caffeine-free, organic base with lots of warming spices. But my kids, who when they were little, I loved to serve them things like this. They really liked it with a little splash of milk and a little bit of vanilla cream stevia. So yummy.
That would be good.
Another way
That's
to
right.
drink it.
Well, it was an interesting week. We happened to find in my lane some mushrooms.
Yes.
And they are called chicken of the woods.
Oh, they're so marvelous.
They are just magical. Delicious to have if you've never eaten them before, but be sure to correctly ID them to make sure it's not a look-alike.
If you live in Kansas, there's a wonderful Facebook group that's the Kansas Mycology group. And of course, wherever you live, you probably have similar mushroom enthusiast groups where you can post pictures to get affirmation of an identification on a mushroom. I think that's always a really good idea to have another pair of eyes on it.
And we dry them or freeze them or just eat them right away, and by sauteing them with butter and a little salt and pepper. Or you can marinate them as you did with some teriyaki.
Yeah, teriyaki sauce or coconut aminos. The wonderful thing about chicken in the woods is it's an amazing meat replacement.
Yes.
I mean, it really, when you're peeling it apart and preparing it, it actually has the texture of chicken. It's amazing.
Yes.
That's why they call it chicken of the woods. There's so much. We had 8.5 pounds just from one side of the tree. It was amazing. And then we grilled them, what we could fit on the grill, and then what we couldn't fit on the grill, we baked. And we were amazed. I mean, it really tasted and gave the texture of chicken. So wonderful.
I actually preferred mine to be just sauteed in butter with salt and pepper on it. Yeah. And they should be cooked before you freeze them.
Yeah, that's what Paul Stamets says.
Yes.
And so that's what we did. And I think that way it's easy too to just pull them out of the freezer, and we're probably going to chop them up and put them into soups, I imagine.
I think they'll be perfect for soups.
Yeah.
I think. Well, as you notice, we are wearing our witches' hats today because we are so close to Halloween. It was called many, many things. All Hallows Eve, Halloween. The predecessor was Samhain.
Samhain is actually a word that means summer's end. It was one of the 4 major Celtic seasonal festivals that started at sundown on October 31st and went through November 1st. It marked the beginning of summer and the beginning of the Celtic New Year. And of course, it was also a transition into the long winter that was going to be coming. And the Celts believed that that was a time of year, as many cultures actually do, that the veil between life and death and the realms of the living and the dead was at its thinnest. And so that time of year allowed the spirits to roam freely between both realms. And so they really anticipated this holiday, but they also really dreaded this holiday because they had this great fear that they would be crossing paths with fairies, monsters, or spirits of the dead. And you can imagine before electricity how spooky it would be outside, especially towards the new moon when there's not a lot of light. And metal lanterns were expensive. And so for protection, people in the British Isles began carving scary, angry faces into turnips and in other root vegetables as well. But, now we, of course, use pumpkins, but it started in turnips. And sometimes, they would use potatoes or radishes or even beets. And then they would put candles inside, both as a light, as an inexpensive lantern, and also to help scare away any otherworldly apparitions. And of course, they built bonfires and used food and drinks as bribes in case they did run across anything scary in the night. And dressing up in costume actually was popular at this holiday as well, just like we do now for Halloween. It was a common practice. They would use the costumes to fool the spirits that might be walking around and to frighten their neighbors, of course, because little pranks are, fun this time of year. And over the centuries, as Mom mentioned, Samhain became All Hallows Eve and then Halloween. It's one of the really few holidays that's still practiced in much the same way as it was historically. And of course, one of the common costumes to dress up in is that of the witch.
And I would like to read a little bit from my book in the month of October. about the witches. I put on a witch's hat and a black shawl each All Hallows Eve to honor the ancestral witches. I think of them often when I make my tinctures, medicines, lotions and potions, salves and balms. I think how they were persecuted. If a healing failed or someone looked at another for far too long, an accusation was then made. The wise old women were exterminated. This is women's history or herstory. Many villages were left with no one to do the healing, and valuable traditions and oral herbal wisdom was lost. Halloween, All Hallows Eve, is a time of reflection. I wonder if the world has changed. On Samhain, the predecessor of our Halloween day, it is a good time to read the history of witches. Learning about the witches and who they were is important history for everyone to know and to never forget.
For sure. Witches, those that they called witches were just demonized women. And generally, they were women who held power in the village. The ones who were first and foremost accused of being witches were those, as Mom said from her book, healers and the midwives. And it's a really powerful herstory for us to learn about and to be aware of as we move through the world, especially those of us who are herbalists and love working with the herbs, because those are the women, again, who were first accused.
We who live close to nature.
Yes.
I'd like to share with you one of the applique mats that I made some time ago, and it is in my book, but the colors do not come through really well on it. I have Tamara hold this up. This is on a very darkish, stormy skies background, I call it. It's bluish gray. It shows the witch and her broom and everything else, the pumpkins, so it's perfect for this time of year, and it was fun to make.
It's beautiful.
It is. This weekend is coming the full moon.
That's right. October 28th is the full moon.
Yes.
Perfect time for getting to close to Halloween.
Yes.
It'll be waning a little bit for
It will
Halloween,
be.
but it should still be fairly
So
full.
we hope you are out celebrating it. And you can read in the book also about all the different names of the October moon, which is really wonderful to know about.
And of course, speaking of learning about herbalism and full moon, we work with the moon cycles, and we, of course, learn about herbalism in our 10-month home herbalist apprenticeship program, which is now open for enrollment. If you've ever wanted to become a confident home herbalist, to very much develop a relationship with plants and with nature and feel confident and comfortable using herbs in cooking and for making your own remedies and planting your medicine garden and all of the things that these wise women did in the past, that we reclaim that wisdom now. We encourage you to check out our home herbalism apprenticeship program at goodearthherbschool.com.
And I would like to close with this quote. It's by L.M. Montgomery, who wrote Anne of Green Gables.
Love that book.
It's good. And she writes, "I'm so glad I live in a world where there are Octobers."
Oh, hear, hear.
We are so
we love October.
fortunate to live in a land where there are the different seasons.
Yes.
We just love. And with that, we'll wish you a happy All Hallows Eve.
And Samhain blessings to you.
See you next